everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, we made it back safely from Ann Arbor. We actually beat the Ohio State football team back, even though they were taking a plane and we were driving. And also, frankly, we did a longer postgame show than they did. So, and Tony didn't get pulled over, even though he was driving faster than planes fly, apparently. I don't know. So that was a great job. Great job all around by Tony. We had less of a delay than Ohio State did. So there you go.
Who's the real hero? Me.
So, when isn't that the answer?
Thank you for saying that, Tom. So we are here, I think, essentially to put Michigan to bed for a while. We have done our rewatch of the Ohio State Michigan game. We've got notes and binders full of thoughts that we didn't get to see live, or if we did see live, there's some things that reminded us of some things, and I've got a few of those things. But Tom, can I tell you the first thing that should have been a little bit of a clue that I saw as I'm watching this broadcast? And it's when Michigan's offense is getting huddled on the sideline, getting ready to take the field after the kickoff, and Max Bredesen is in that huddle, and he starts off running towards the field, and then he comes off. And it's just, to me, it was like the first part of a smoke and mirrors plan for Michigan. It's like, let's make Ohio State think a bunch of things, none of which are true, and see if we can't fool them into believing these things. And that was the first of them, to have Ohio State respond to, oh no, oh my God, Max Bredesen is heading towards the field. Oh, thank God, no, he's not. What? I don't know what to think now. What are they going to come up with next? And that, to me, just reminded me of when Ohio State would play a bad team back in the day, and the bad team would start off with an onside kick because they know they're in trouble. It's kind of felt like that. It's kind of like, it's a bit much.
Well, they were very clearly leaking through some friendly media that, oh boy, there's going to be some shocking development in terms of who's going to play. And Evan Link, the left tackle, he was dressed, he was all warming up, and Bredesen got off the bus in a boot and with crutches, and then was dressed. And you told me after the game, I didn't even notice him out there in his uniform, but you told me after the game, might have been even on the postgame show, and it was like, what? No, he wasn't. I saw him. I saw him get off the bus and thought, well, there's no way that guy's playing today unless medical science has a significant leap forward in the next 45 minutes. There's no way he's playing, and I have not seen any headlines about that. So, yeah, there was, there's a lot of subterfuge that goes on with this game. So, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like, oh, they're doing something dirty or underhanded or anything like that, but it just is kind of like, well, you're just sort of throwing some stuff against the wall to see what sticks. My early game observation, and this is something I never would have thought in a million years, but this was kind of Michigan's, they didn't come in expecting to win this game like the Buckeyes did in the game I'm about to cite, but this was kind of Michigan's 2007 Fiesta Bowl game where Ohio State Ted Ginn runs back the opening kickoff for a touchdown, and it's like, oh man, here we go. And then the rest of the game happened. Tony, 3 minutes and 30 seconds into this game, here are some things that had already happened. The Michigan student section had already started chanting overrated. Michigan had already forced its only turnover of the day. They already had their longest and third longest runs of the day, and which is accounted for more than half of their rushing yards for the total day, and they had their third longest pass of the day. All of that happened in the first 3 minutes and 30 seconds of this football game. Unfortunately for Michigan, there were another 56 minutes and 30 seconds after that did not go quite as well.
Well, they also did not have the ball for the rest for those 56 minutes, basically, as Ohio State had the ball for 40 minutes, and as Tom knows, the most important statistic in college football is time of possession. He will tell you that.
For years.
You mentioned those early runs. Michigan picked up, not just then, but they had 79 yards on their 3 explosive runs, and their other 21 carries went for 21 yards over the course of the game. They had 1 explosive pass play, which was 26 yards to Donovan McCulley into triple coverage, which really, you could tell, and I wrote about this on Sunday, you could tell that this was a very concerned game plan. They did not want Bryce Underwood throwing the ball over the middle of the field, certainly beyond the 10 yards or anything like that, because, again, as you like to say, here be monsters, and that was definitely the case for Ohio State's defense. I started charting his passing. It was just like there's no reason to, because he had, like, that was the only pass that was really meaningfully downfield. He had, the 2 pass interference calls, which were, we've seen worse get let go, but this is not something that I learned from rewatching. But yeah, the passing game, this was a very, very concerned and conservative game plan by Michigan, and we were expecting more screens and things like that, and they threw some slow developing screens where Ohio State was like, okay, like give us more time to go blow up the play behind the line of scrimmage, and we saw them do that, whether it's Caleb Downs or Arvell Reese or Sonny Styles. This defense is too fast for slow developing stuff, and frankly, they're too good for the quick stuff either, which is why you need the downfield stuff, and you didn't have it. And this is something I wanted to mention during the show, the post game, but I just, I was cold. But I saw a lot of Caleb Downs in the slot over Andrew Marsh when they would put Marsh in the slot, and they were putting him all over the place to try to, I don't know, do something, but they never really threw to him unless it was like down the sideline with the 2 PI calls or one of the PI calls.
Yeah, he had officially 0 targets on the stat sheet, and the only one that I could remember getting thrown to him was the one that Jermaine Matthews got called for pass interference. And that was, if you watched it, it was like Jermaine Matthews extended his arm. Unless Jermaine Matthews suddenly got much stronger or Andrew Marsh weighs less than he's listed on the roster, I don't know how he got thrown that violently off of his feet, because it didn't look like that much of a shove. But either way, yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's a pass interference call. They're going to make that. That's fine. But yeah, there was just not a lot there for Michigan offensively. I was surprised at the fact that Michigan didn't do something else. I mean, they run an end around. That has been like the Michigan signatures. You're going to have the one wide receiver is going to have one end around, and he's going to get exactly 12 yards. It's going to work once, and that's going to be it. And then you're going to run a reverse, and sometimes that's going to have a flea flicker tag on it. And they just didn't do any of that stuff. And I think part of that may have been Ohio State's approach, which, number one, Ohio State's been very good and very disciplined about staying home on that stuff all year against everyone. But number two, if you look, every time Michigan lines up to punt, Ohio State's got his defense out there, because Ohio State is just, this is a game where it felt like both teams came in kind of knowing, like, yeah, Michigan could win, but they're going to have to pull off some nonsense on special teams or, get some turnovers on defense. And so Ohio State's approach on special teams was just kind of, okay, we're not going to, we don't care if you punt this ball. You've got to punt it. We're going to make you punt it. We're not going to, we are not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe on special teams. And they didn't. And Michigan didn't even try. It just felt like Ohio State's approach maybe pushed Michigan away from maybe trying some of that stuff, because it was like very obviously not going to work, but nothing else really worked. It was kind of a weird game plan. Like they, as you said, they didn't do the stuff that I sort of expected them to do, but nothing they did really worked. And, I saw people saying that, well, boy, the whole game changed after Jordan Marshall went out. And it's like, maybe, but I don't, did you think Jordan Marshall was on his way to a Tim Biakabatuka game? I didn't. The Ohio State offensive line, it was, Michigan did some interesting stuff, blocking up a couple plays, and that was, early. And then Ohio State seems like they adjusted, and that was kind of it. So yeah, I did not look at anything and think, well, that was the one thing that, if only this one thing hadn't happened, we would have had a whole different outcome. That just looked like a lot like an Ohio State Michigan game where one team was substantially better in the trenches on both sides of the ball, and that team won.
And to circle back to the Jordan Marshall thing, he got re-aggravated 5 minutes in. Like it was bound to happen. And then Michigan got the experience of Tony Alford in this game, who frequently in the past has not had a deep enough room to handle late November. He lost his top 2 guys this year, if you want to include Jordan Marshall in that. So you're down to your 3rd and your 4th. Saw him a couple of years ago where he's putting, few years back where you're down to a freshman and Xavier Johnson. Then a year after that, you're trying to put Chip Trainum in there, and he's running the ball, and he's your answer. He was a linebacker, came to Ohio State to play linebacker after being a running back at Arizona State, and he's your third or fourth guy. So they got the Tony Alford experience in this game, which is reaching very deep into a very shallow bag and hoping for the best, and it just not quite working out. And that's what happened with Michigan in this one, whereas Ohio State is out there playing four guys, frankly, and three of them getting carries, and all of them seeming fresh and rosy.
Yeah, and I think we should just talk about Bo Jackson here, but to Carlos Laughlin's credit, yeah, the room is deep. The room has four playable guys, four guys who they would feel okay giving carries in that game and taking snaps in that game. I mean, you saw Isaiah West getting multiple carries in the early fourth quarter, but man, Bo Jackson, like this is the Bo Jackson that you and I were looking at in the spring and going like, I don't know when, but this guy is going to be pretty good at some point relatively soon. And you've kind of seen his profile sort of round out. It was like, boy, he's got a good burst through the hole, but he gets, he'll get knocked off balance, or he isn't seeing the holes where they are, or maybe they're not being blocked well enough. A little bit of all of that earlier in the spring. And then this was one where it was like, oh, he has the run where you go, oh, that was like good cutback to find the lane. Oh, that was like good burst. The one where he looked like he was absolutely, Jimmy Roller looked like he had him absolutely dead to rights. I think this was on the second drive, where it looked like Jimmy Roller had him absolutely dead to rights, and he gave him the stanky leg, and then all of a sudden took off, and then TJ Metcalf comes flying by and blocks Jimmy Roller for him, and it's like, yeah, thanks, cool, appreciate it, and takes off running. And one thing that you just, in terms of a freshman, freshmen have lots of different personalities, but Jair Hill was kind of joeing at Bo Jackson on one play, and then that was, I believe, the next snap. And Jair Hill was the one who ultimately ran Bo Jackson down, 35 or whatever yards downfield. And Bo Jackson was letting him know about it right after that play. And it was like, all right, well, the freshman has figured out, the freshman has found his voice, and the freshman has seemingly found his game. And I think he had a good reception or two as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was useful in the passing game. So yeah, it feels like he is really sort of finding his role, rounding into his role. But they also have the ability to, throw those other guys in. He actually had a good blitz pickup on one of the plays as well. It was just kind of, I have a list of like, oh, this was a good this on this play, and oh, look, good that on that play. And it was just kind of like, oh, this was, he kind of checked all the boxes in this game.
Boy, yeah, he did. The blitz pickup is on my second page, which led to the pass to Will Kazmarek down the seam on Jimmy Roller because the other linebacker was staying in, or was blitzing. Bo Jackson, 4 catches, 49 yards in this one. He had a 23-yarder on one sideline, and then the most impressive one was the catch over, like he had to turn and catch it like this, which is tough for a running back to do, to get it over his pads. Brought it in, picked up a first down, and you're watching him, and I can see maybe next year after that, where you're talking about a guy that is going to be approaching, like, say, 1,800 yards of total offense in a season because of the receiving aspect of what he's done. We've seen him very effective as an outlet. He's very effective as a second, third read guy, where you just, you know what? It's easy yards, go get it. Where he could be a 1,400 yard rusher and 400 yard receiving guy, especially over the course of 16 games, really becoming a complete back. And coming into this game, Michigan game, I felt pretty good about him. And now I'm not saying he's going to have like an Ezekiel Elliott 2014 finish to his season where he's just running for 200 yards on everybody, but it's going to be interesting to see, because right now he's like at 940 yards rushing after 12 games, even though he did not play against Texas. I do wonder if he starts to become a national name, not just because of Bo Jackson, but because of his play as the postseason goes on.
Yeah, he is currently at 952 yards, and I just pulled that up and had these stats haven't been updated because it says he's only played 11 games, and then you forget he literally didn't play against Texas to start the year, and then here are his last 5 games: 13 carries for 105 yards, 8.1 against Penn State, 14 carries for 75 yards, 5.4 against Purdue, 15 carries for 112 yards, 7.5 against UCLA, 19 carries for 110 yards, 5.8 against Rutgers, and 22 carries for 117 yards, 5.3 against Michigan. Just say he averages 100 yards, which he's over that over the last 5 games. Say he averages 100 yards for the next 4 games that Ohio State plays. If Ohio State plays 4 more games, he's basically in J.K. Dobbins' freshman year territory. It's right around there. He might even be a little bit ahead. I think Dobbins was in that 13-ish 100 range.
1403.
Was it 1403? Okay, so yeah, so he's right in that neighborhood then. That's, you look at that number, and that was J.K. Dobbins was a incredibly, really unique running back, and that was also a season when Ohio State had, really, he was it, because Mike Weber was really banged up that year, and you really didn't see him a ton. And yeah, they didn't play 15 games back then or 16 games back then, but it was, still, that was boy, you might not see that for a long time. And then Bo Jackson doesn't play the first game of the season, and then is just part of a rotation coming through. And, I know we did like over-unders for his season, and I think we were trying to be sort of cautious about you don't want to say this guy's going to have 1,300 yards this year, because that's really an unfair thing to throw on a true freshman, especially a guy who's not even starting at the beginning of the year. But, I think we set over-unders around 700 maybe, or 600 or something like that, and thought he could absolutely hit those numbers. I think he took a bigger role earlier in the season than we were thinking, because it just felt like he vaulted past Donaldson and Peoples relatively early in the season and took that starting role. But yeah, he has been, not a surprise in that, like, wow, where did this guy come from? But just he got here faster than I thought he might.
Oh, and just one correction on the over-under or the season total. I said 6 100-yard rushing games. I'm sure I didn't say 600 yards rushing. I'm pretty sure I said 6 100-yard rushing games. It may have, maybe the audio was bad or the memories are bad. But
the audio bad on the Buckeye Weekly podcast, please, sir, please. No one would ever believe that.
I may have been running a chainsaw at the moment. I don't know. I can't recall. Your turn or my turn?
You go ahead.
I'll go ahead. I enjoyed watching IGB in this game, both the first time and the second time. He gets so involved in the run game when there's no receiver on his side. He's like, okay, I'm now Caleb Downs. I'm going to go and make a play against the run. If you don't want to put a receiver over on my side, I'll just go do that, especially if Caleb Downs is defending, Andrew Marsh or whatever. He's very effective at that. I left the press box with like 3 minutes to go, and we're out, and we have to kind of walk out of the stadium to get back around to the post game. And as we're kind of leaving the stadium, you hear the crowd roars, and I'm thinking, was that an Ohio State roar or was that a Michigan roar? Because I know most Michigan fans are already out of the stadium, so I'm like, that was probably an Ohio State roar. And then I think we finally figured out like there was maybe an interception. And so I get to the post-game room, and I think I asked somebody, hey, like, what happened? They said, oh, Davis Nigbenosin intercepted the ball and then ran down the field and took his helmet off and celebrated in the end zone. And I'm like, that makes complete sense. That is exactly, I should have known by the roar that was it. An interception and removal of the helmet, and knowing that you're going to get a 15-yard penalty for that, don't care. And it was just a tribute to the guy who started it all, and that was Joey Galloway, who would take his helmet off after touchdowns. And then finally the NCAA was like, we need to stop this. We need to make a rule about no more taking your helmet off. So it all goes back 30 plus years from now. And so that was a very, very believable celebration at the end of this game.
Yeah, that was very strategic. It reminded me a little bit of, I think it was Jim Otis in 1968, where it was probably the touchdown that made it 50-14. and he scores the touchdown and then punts the ball into the stands because, like, yeah, man, you can't hurt me. Like, wait, the score is what the score is. That you're not going to change the outcome right now. Yeah, that was very much a Davis and Igbinosa knew they were up 3 scores, knew that they had the ball, knew there were 3 minutes left or whatever, and it was like, these 15 yards won't hurt. It's fine. Like, I'm going to do it once. Better, like, it's better to get it out of the way now. Like when we were kids, like, just get the chicken pox, just get it out of the way now. It's fine. Just so yeah, you got his money's worth on that one. Yeah, that was a very IGB moment. I did, while we're talking about celebrations, I did not see Carnell Tate do the Paul Bunyan Trophy celebration, which I saw that and I thought, well, I mean, obviously he knows what that is. That's Michigan players who are doing that during the Michigan State game. But then it's like, so that was like very pointed, like that's a very unique one. That's not like Brandon Inniss hit the old silencer for the old Ezekiel Elliott celebration. But that's one that you see all the time. Like the Paul Bunyan one, like no one does the Paul Bunyan Trophy celebration except for the Michigan State game, and that felt a little pointed that he did that one. I had not noticed that one during the game. One other, just like, man, Ryan Day in this game, the emotions of the coaches in this game. Like, first of all, Sherrone Moore, at the beginning of the game, Sherrone Moore is expressive. The time he's running out of the tunnel. I have a picture of him looking like he's about ready to just like primal screaming, running out of the tunnel. And he's on the sidelines, he's yelling, he's throwing his arms around. And then like 10 minutes into the game, every time they show him on the sidelines, he looked like he's literally about to burst into tears. Like, I had the same thought watching Jonathan Smith during the Michigan State-Michigan game on the sidelines, where they showed him on the sideline and he just looking like he wanted to cry. And then that was Sherrone Moore on the sideline, just the whole game, just like he came out like ready to take over the world. And then as soon as it was like field goal, Ohio State goes back and scores. It was just kind of, and I think it was after they Ohio State got the ball back late in the first quarter. And then it was just kind of like, and that was the end of Sherrone Moore's emotions for the day. He used them all up, and then it was going to just be sort of ennui for the rest of the game. Ryan Day, man, oh man, I have photos of Ryan Day like running down the sidelines. I got photos of Ryan Day pointing. I've got photos of Ryan Day, like Jaden Fielding kicked that field goal at the end of that 20-play drive. And Ryan Day, I have a photo of Ryan Day that looks like he is, Jaden Fielding has like lost his expensive car at the valet stand and Ryan Day is letting him have it, except he's like letting him have it brackets congratulatory, like, way to go, man. But he just looks like he is feeling it. And there was my favorite Ryan Day moment is Julian saying on that scramble in the fourth quarter, he's saying is like scrambling. It was right in the middle of that 20-play drive, I believe. And he's saying is like scrambling and is going to get the first down. And Ryan Day, you just see him out of the corner of the screen running down the sideline, like pointing at the first down marker, which I don't know if he thought that Sayin might not see it because it was covered in snow or what, but it was like Ryan Day was into that game.
He was pointing at the yellow line on the field saying, get to that yellow line. It was interesting watching him meet Julian sitting there. I also wrote down something about Sherrone Moore. Like, they don't need to show him before going to commercial every time, just showing him yelling or doing whatever. Again, you've got multiple broadcast partners. Go ahead and do a Sherrone cast if you want. Do the khaki cast, whatever. Enough with the yelling and the facial expressions. It got a little bit old. One more for me, Tom. One other one for me. Brandon Inniss only had a few catches in this one, but he was running routes all game long, and he was leaving TJ Metcalf or whomever in the dust, and they were grasping for him. And I still think that his touchdown catch is an incredibly well drawn up play that is clearly and obviously a pick play. I mean, you can't, but
no. They were running a double slant with the receivers, one right in front of the other, as one does. It's Tony. He's running a route. I don't know what you're talking about.
And exactly. I mean, you're powerless to stop it, literally and figuratively. And what makes, I think, one of the reasons this Ohio State offense is so good is Brandon Inniss is your number 4 pass option, right? And then there are plays like that where he is the number 1 option. but you're not as worried about him as you are Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate. So at best, he's the defense's number 3 concern if we're not even talking about the running game. So at best, he's the defense's number 4 concern, and your 4th concern is now Ohio State's number 1. That's what they're going to do. How well are you going to defend it? You're not going to defend it very well because you're all spread out over the place. And there are other plays where on third downs, he's just completely wide open because safeties can't get down quickly enough because of the slant that he's running or the defense that Michigan is running. And so very, very good day by him, even when he wasn't getting the ball, but when he was also effective and had a couple nice punt returns as well.
Yeah, had a couple nice punt returns. It was 2 catches for 12 yards for him, but good blocking on the edge. There was a couple. There was one where he had the ceiling block for a long run. He is a really underappreciated player, and I think he is maybe kind of the model of you need some of these guys on your team. Like, you can't build the whole plane out of Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate simply because there are not that many of those guys. But you need a Brandon Inniss or 2 on your team where he's going to do the dirty work. He's going to make the tough catches. Was it last week? I think when last week when they didn't have either of those guys, and he had like 6 catches for 30 yards, but like 4 of them were picking up crucial first downs on third down or fourth down and tough catches. And there's just no flash at all. Like, he is a South Florida Express player, so he has some flash to his game, but the plays themselves, the stats, they're not splashy at all. It's just move chains, keep it going, just sort of punch in, punch out. It is really, really impressive. And obviously a very respected leader on the team as well. That's one of those things where, he is not the stat guy, but on a team that has loads of leaders, it's Austin Searveld, Brandon Inniss, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles. Like, that's it. Those are your leaders on this team. Those are your captains on this team, on a team that is loaded with veterans and leaders. Like, that to me, to be that in that kind of role without having the splashy stats and the award nominations and all that kind of stuff, that really, I think, tells you a lot. One thing that I thought was very interesting to watch in retrospect was Gus and Joel talking about, there's 8 minutes still to go in the first half, and Michigan's already become just the second team to reach 100 yards rushing against Ohio State this year. Mm-hmm. Only Texas has done that. There's still 8 minutes to go in the first half. And obviously watching with the knowledge of, having seen the game before, it was kind of like, wait a minute, how many yards did they finish with? And, then as soon as you know that the answer is also 100 yards, it's like watching one of those nature documentaries with like, oh, good for that impala. He's found a watering hole. Good for him. Oh, no. Oh, no. It was 100 yards rushing with 8 minutes to go in the first half, 0 yards rushing for the rest of the game, -8 yards rushing in the second half. I mean, that's if you rush for 0 yards and also don't throw for very many yards in the last 38 minutes of a football game, you are not going to win very many football games. That was just Ohio State controlled the line of scrimmage, but Ohio State also just has, I have a picture of Arvell Reese and Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles all kind of lined up. And it's not even a particularly good picture because they're sort of facing at a weird angle, but I put it in the photo gallery anyway, because it's like, well, no one else in America can get a picture like this of 3 guys like this who are going to be potential first-round draft picks, and they're just all sort of lined up together, just sort of, what are they going to do? I don't know. I bet it'll be cool. And you just had the Caleb Downs plays. You had the Arvell Reese plays, and it's just, if Michigan had a limited amount of stuff they could do, and a certain percentage of that was just going to be like, nope, that's not going to work. Caleb Downs lives here now, and Arvell Reese lives here now, and so that's just not going to work. And that is, they say defense travels. That is something that is going to travel as we're, shifting into Indiana mode later in the week. We've already started watching a few of those, a few of their games. And I'm already watching this and going, well, yeah, that worked against Oregon, but I don't know how that's going to work against Ohio State. And that is a luxury. You want to know why Matt Patricia is smiling so much this year? That may be at least a part of why he's so happy.
It was Caleb Downs that knocked Jordan Marshall out of the game, hit him on his right arm, and that was it. That was also the last note on my front page. My first page was the 100-yard rushing mark at the 8:06 mark of the second quarter. I was like, oh, this is where the game ends. This is basically where the game, nothing good happens for Michigan after this. And that's absolutely true. I did like, again, Sonny Styles in this game. You see it live, but then when you watch it and on TV and you can rewatch it and you see the replay and he's flying around, he's tracking Jordan Marshall down from behind. He's zipping into the backfield, and he is, I think he's another guy. I said, like Bo Jackson, people are going to be talking more and more about him. I think the same thing for Sonny Styles, because you can do whatever you want with him. There was a time where he was even lined up over Andrew Marsh, and it's like, and Michigan ran the ball. Maybe that's an instance where you need your true freshman quarterback to be like, can we do something about it? Can we call an audible? And maybe that's one of the downsides of having a true freshman quarterback. But he's just very, very effective, does not miss tackles, and is a guy that you can count on. And he's, finally got his gold pants and is only seemingly getting better and better. He's not plateaued, I don't think.
No. He is someone who, just as new at linebacker as he is, he's going to continue to learn and continue to develop. He's going to make an NFL GM very happy in next April and beyond. Mentioning someone lining up over Andrew Marsh, the one Caleb Downs play that I thought was like just a holy crap kind of play was, it was towards the end of the game, and Andrew Marsh starts running a route, and Caleb Downs just kind of like redirects him, just kind of drives him off his route, and then comes off of that and then breaks on the ball and then undercuts the tight end for no gain or a short gain. And it was just like, okay, well, he blew it up there. He blew up the play in two different places. Neither of which I don't know which of them was his actual primary job, but he did both of them and just completely blew up that side of the field. So yeah, that was impressive. One thing that I thought was interesting, I think we talked about this. I don't think we talked about this on the show last night. I think we talked about this in the car on the way home. But Ohio State declining the holding penalty that was going to make it 2nd and 15 in the second quarter, that turned it into, it might have even been the late first quarter, that turned it into a 3rd and 5. And that's so interesting to me. I kind of would love to just, like, this is not a question you're going to be able to ask Ryan Day at this point because you're going to turn the page. But like, what was the thinking behind that? Because it felt like the thinking was, they're not going to be able to, 5 yards is too long to run and they can't pass. Like that felt what like the vibe to that on that one. And then Michigan didn't pick it up. And that really felt like that was kind of the beginning of the end. Because I think that was 6-3. I think that was Michigan's first drive after Ohio State cut it to 6-3. And Ohio State stops them and gets the ball back. And it was just kind of like, well, that's it. Hope you enjoyed having the lead, because that's probably not going to happen again. That was a really interesting choice. I didn't really talk about it on the broadcast that much. It was like they almost didn't notice. I didn't hear them announce it in the stadium. Like, it was just kind of, they called the penalty and all of a sudden it was 3rd and 5. And I just like, what? But we don't always hear stuff on the field. So I figured I missed something, but it just kind of went unremarked on the broadcast. But I thought that was a really interesting decision, but really something that, that was one of those moments that you want to talk about momentum completely swinging. That stop on 3rd and 5 really swung the game.
Well, and the refs are already moving him back. And then Ohio State had to be like, no. We're going to decline. And okay. Then it's 3rd and 5. And as I told you in the car, the national writers, one section below us, were very like doubtful that this was a good call. And then afterwards they're like, oh, well, I guess Ryan Day knows best. No reason to critique that one. It worked out. We'll wait for the next one. Did Gabe Van Sickle play in this offensive line at all? I don't know that I ever saw him in this one. And I guess rewatching it, I didn't necessarily look for him, but I'm wondering, having now seen Tigre Spola play pretty well in the last couple of games, if if his confidence is at a very good spot right now, at a very good time right now, and if that's even more of a confidence booster, that I don't recall there being any rotation there, and it's just interesting that maybe things are looking up right there for Tegra and the offensive line as a whole.
Yeah, I saw Van Sickle out there, but I think it might have just been for field goals and PATs and not actually in the game. And he's a Michigan native, so that would have been one where, if you're gonna play him, you play him in that one. Like Penn State played their third string quarterback a bunch when they were playing Iowa because it was a kid from Iowa. You would have seen him, in any game other than the Michigan game, you would have seen him in there probably just as a sort of like tip of the cap, coming back home kind of thing. But you're not going to mess with it unless you feel like it's in your best interest. And the fact that Tegra Shagola is very clearly now, we haven't talked about Josh Padilla on the show for a few weeks, and he obviously the injury sort of changed that. But Tegra has really, we haven't talked about Tegra on this show, and that's, that is a good thing that he has been someone whose name has come up a lot this year and not always in great circumstances, but he's been really good the last couple of years. And, this is not a world-beating Michigan defensive line. They made a couple plays, but they really, Ohio State was able to kind of do what they needed to do, both in pass pro and running the ball. That line is really sort of rounding into shape right at the right time. This is kind of when things sort of started to fall into place last year, was right going into that Tennessee game. And it feels like, this is a, Tyler Bowen, Charlie Dickey, Marcus Johnson sort of combination, like one of those collabs, Tony. The kids call it a collab. But they have really got that line coming together. One other thing, and I think we may have talked about this on the show last night, but the overthrow to Jeremiah Smith on the fade on 1st and goal or whatever it was, I think on the first time Ohio State had the ball inside the 5. That needs to happen every time they're down there. You need to, if there is one person on Jeremiah Smith or Carnell Tate, you need to throw a fade if the corner has inside leverage, or you need to throw a quick slant if the corner has outside leverage. Like, that's it. You need to do that. You don't get any extra points. You get the same number of points for throwing the ball in as opposed to running the ball. This is not, middle school football where you get it, you get an extra point if you throw it. Like, no, it's the same number of points. You have a Jeremiah Smith. They do not. Indiana has a corner. Their best corner is D'Angelo Pons. Tony, do you know how tall D'Angelo Pons is?
5'9".
5'9". Tony, how tall is Jeremiah Smith? Is it taller than that or shorter than that?
It's a good half foot taller than D'Angelo Pons.
Interesting. Is it going to be windy inside Lucas Oil Stadium on Saturday?
Only if they were playing at the Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome in Minneapolis, and they are not.
Okay, good. Okay. And Indiana's pretty good on run defense then. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll have to take all week to figure out whether it would be a good idea to throw that ball in the red zone and in goal to go situations. It feels like that might have been an opportunity, and that might be something that you see more of in the future, because the one was high, but if the ball was 6 inches lower, it would have been a touchdown on that. They ended up kicking a field goal on that one, but that feels like news you can use, as the kids say.
Last thing for me, seeing Philip Daniels at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, jawing with the Michigan players. You can tell this guy, he's only been a Buckeye for a year now. I believe he grew up an Ohio State fan. He sure does not like Michigan much at all.
He doesn't like anyone.
That's true. Fair. He will get into it with everybody. But it was interesting to see one of the newest Buckeyes getting after it. There's a lot of talking in this game, and fortunately, there's no serious fisticuffs, which is always good. I don't mind a whole bunch of chirping. That's going to be the way it is. But very good job by Ryan Day and Sherrone Moore to keep things civil after the game and let people get out of there without being pepper sprayed.
Yeah, that was as far as an on-field experience post Michigan Ohio State game. That this was substantially better and less tear-inducing than last year, so that was good. My last note was on Kayden McDonald being fullback. Like, I think one thing that you as an Ohio State fan should have been picking up over the course of the last 12 games is you need more Kayden McDonald in your life, because he is this year's like Robert Landers, wildly oversized personality, like incredibly likable player in the interior of the defensive line. Obviously a phenomenal player, but also just a really likable guy. Kayden McDonald as fullback, like, I find your ideas intriguing and wish you subscribe to your newsletter, because there is a world where that ends up with a handoff to Kayden McDonald for a touchdown, and that is a world I would like to live in at some point. But he was, unfortunately, that was the play where I think the guy he blocked was the one who got hurt, where I had the guy was down on the field and it was like, why? And then you watch the replay and it was like, that was not good. But just the idea of Kayden McDonald, he has that quick short area burst where if he can get low, he has a lot of mass working for him, and he has some pretty good acceleration. And just in terms of like knocking a linebacker backwards into the end zone, I like his odds there. So I saw that and thought, I could see more of that and be okay with it. Frankly, he's athletic enough, Tony. I bet he can catch a football. Listen, I don't want to tell Ryan Day everything he needs to do at the goal line, but Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Kayden McDonald, those should be your top 3 targets in the red zone. That's all I'm saying.
Well, plus we know they're not going to give the ball to Bo Jackson at the goal line. They've done it once and didn't go necessarily all that well. Kayden McDonald probably more of a chance of getting the ball after Bo Jackson gets them down there, and they put in C.J. Donaldson for 6 carries. Maybe give one of those 6 carries to Kayden McDonald, or perhaps play action to him into the flats, or you know what, double flea flicker of some sort, 98 end around, whatever. Get him involved. He gets bored on defense. So there you go. That's our things we've learned from rewatching this Ohio State-Michigan game. Ohio State still wins 27-9, in case you're wondering. If you were watching on YouTube, please go ahead and hit the thumbs up. We'd appreciate that. Yes. Subscribe to the channel. I know you have. If you have not yet done so, do that. Hit the bell to be notified when we drop shows, because it is another big week. It is not Michigan week, but it is Big Ten Championship week. It's a week that Ohio State has not had since 2020. And so we will be having plenty of content for you, as you guys would expect. And of course, you can continue to find us talking about this and everything else leading up to it at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up, become a member, join us on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus, as we are talking about this, preparing for all of this, and talking about the things we're hearing and seeing. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.